I tried to beat a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Emerald backwards, a ROM hack created by Viperio that reverses the events of Pokemon Emerald. And in the interest of not ruining any surprises, let's jump straight into my playthrough to see what the hell that looks like. My journey begins where all others end. I've been crowned the Hoenn League champion, but in my timeline, that hasn't happened yet. My box is filled with every fully evolved Pokemon in the game, and in my bag is every accessible item, TM, and berry. But I haven't yet caught those Pokemon, and I haven't yet collected those items. My trainer card shows the exploits of a long and perilous adventure I've yet to begin. Back to my Pokemon, each one of them is at level 58 with their level up moveset. All have the met location of Evergrande City, so I'll need to tweak my standard hardcore Nuzlocke rule set for this particular challenge. I decided that I'd adhere to two rules. One, all teammates had to theoretically abide by the one encounter per route Nuzlocke rule. And B, I was not allowed to make changes to my roster unless a Pokemon died. Anyways, it's clear that our first task is to claw my way out of the Pokemon League in reverse order. Wallace will be first, Sidney will be last. So in order to pull this off, I cobbled together a 6-mon roster of Sceptile, my presumably beloved starter, Lantern, a reliable Bolt Beamer from the deep sea, Crobat, a speedy answer to Wallace's Ludicolo, Glalie, a hardy ice type for Drake's Dragons, Exploud, a boisterous normal type check to Phoebe's ghost types, and Starmie, a second reliable Bolt Beamer from the shores of Lily Cove City. With that, I walk backwards, nice touch, out of the Hall of Fame and into Wallace's chamber for the very first fight of the challenge. The champion leads with Wailord and I bring in Sceptile. With a single leaf blade, he slices the blubbery beast like a perfectly cooked fish fillet. Then I discover another quirk of Emerald backwards, because as our enemy falls, Sceptile loses XP, and the result is that he actually drops to level 57 before Milotic comes out second. Milo's got Ice Beam, so not wanting to lose my starter, I switch to Lantern, though Wallace opts for Death by Toxic. This lets Lantern fire off a few Thunderbolts as she just eats Surfs and Toxic Chip. Unfortunately, with Milo's Citrus Berry, our second Thunderbolt just puts Wallace's ace into healing range. But instead of whipping out the full restore, our foe makes a hard switch to Whiscash. Clever girl. With Lantern at just 49 HP after our Citrus Berry and the additional toxic damage, I pivot to Sceptile on a resisted Earthquake before my king takes his second KO of the fight. So Milotic comes back in, but thanks to the full restore, our Leaf Blade doesn't even bring the fish out of the green. A foolish Detect then instantly gets punished as Wallace takes the opportunity to heal with Recover, forcing me to play a bit riskier on the following turn. Another Leaf Blade brings the eel down to where he was 2 turns prior as an Ice Beam flies into Sceptile, leaving him with 47 HP. I then make the misplay of switching out to Starmie. Sceptile was sitting in overgrow range there, meaning that a second boosted Leaf Blade would have easily taken the KO. Fortunately, we go unpunished as Starmie is now free to spam Thunderbolts as Wallace repeatedly goes for Recover. He is gaining back a little bit more HP than we're dealing, but all it takes is one critical hit to break the cycle, and sure enough, it happens. That brings in Ludicolo 4th, who is easily handled by my Crobat. It's a bit odd to use an entire team slot to counter one specific Pokemon, but this double teaming agent of chaos is worth it. A few aerial aces, and that's all she wrote. With Wallace's biggest threats down, he's left with his penultimate Pokemon Tentacruel, who eats an aerial ace from Crobat before retaliating with a fairly strong Ice Beam. Glalie comes in to deal damage with Crunch and eat a Toxic, thereby allowing Starmie to switch in on a guaranteed Hydro Pump. With one last Psychic, they take the KO on Tentacruel and then rack up another kill against Gyarados via Thunderbolt. So we've officially defeated Wallace, and with that, I've lost my title of Hoenn Champion. As a result, our level cap has dropped to level 55, matching the final Elite Four members' ace Pokemon. And fortunately, Emerald backwards has a nifty key item called the Level Cap Candy. With one click of the Benjamin Button, my Pokemon will instantly drop down to the current level cap. Vital here, where I can't train against wild Pokemon and naturally lose the levels. Anyways, Drake is next, which means that it's time for Glalie to earn his keep. With Ice Beams, he outspeeds and one-shots the Gons, both Shell and Fly. Salamence outspeeds to hit a Flamethrower, but without a crit, it's not enough to kill, so Ice Beam number 3 gets KO number 3. Altaria is then again outsped in one-shot, leaving just Kingdra. Ice Beam is obviously no longer super effective, doing less than 50% before the Sea Drake Drake sets up a Dragon Dance. On the next turn, I switch out to Exploud as Kingdra goes for Dragon Dance number 2. The hope here is that a stab return will be enough to kill Kingdra and avoid any healing. Despite a smokescreen, Exploud connects, but falls just shy of the KO. Poor, weak, lousy, stupid, ugly Exploud. Missing out on the KO means that Drake heals, and of course Mr. Mediocre misses his second return. Then a +2 body slam does a little less than 50%, and Exploud misses another return. Well, this guy doesn't deserve to play around the critical hit, so Body Slam number 2 comes out and leaves Exploud with just 8 HP before he finally connects with another return. 50% of the time, it works every time. Now, I may play the Heartless Warlord at times, but the dark tendrils of hate haven't completely overtaken my soul, and as a result, I decide to spare poor, stupid, dumb, ugly Exploud's life, opting for a switch into the comparably bulky Lantern on what turns out to be a lucky random move Surf. Kingdra then goes for a greedy third Dragon Dance, letting Lantern sow a Confuse Ray that we immediately reap on the next turn as Kingdra hits himself in confusion for massive damage, which is more than enough for our Thunderbolt to take the KO and win us the first battle of the Backwards Elite Four. Oh crap, the sponsorship segment is backwards. Hold on, I can fix this. Sorry, I just gotta reverse the metaphysical time stream. Did somebody say time? Technically, I said time stream, but yeah, I expected this. Nobody expects their spawn con. Yeah, nice try, buddy. We've done this like 4 times. I know your shtick. Well, I bet you didn't know that this video is sponsored by Holzkern, an Austrian accessories company that specializes in unique, one-of-a-kind products made from wood and other natural materials. Yeah, of course I know that. I had to approve the sponsorship. That doesn't even make any sense. Don't try to understand it. Feel it. Are you quoting Tenet? What are you talking about? Okay, let's focus up here, Spawn Conscience, because we need to talk about everything Holzkern has to offer. Holzkern started by selling watches, but has since expanded to include jewelry, sunglasses, and even wooden handbags. I'm a huge fan of how many different types of watches they have. I recently got the Thicket made from walnut and marble, but my personal favorite is the Antoninus made from leadwood and marble, which I wear all the time, including to my own wedding. If that's not a ringing endorsement, I don't know what is. And Dana loves all her Holzkern jewelry as well, like her most recent addition, the mosaic earrings made from lapis lazuli and rose gold. I know I'm not saying that first one right, I'm sorry. With over 1,000 different products to choose from, Holzkern makes the perfect gift for any occasion. Or maybe you just want to treat yourself. You've worked hard and you deserve it. All items ship worldwide for free and typically arrive in just 2 to 5 business days. Plus, by using the link in the description down below and my code FLYGON at checkout, you can get 10% off your first purchase store-wide. Thanks so much to Holzkern for sponsoring this video. Now, let's get back to the challenge. Glacia is second, so it's time for our starter to add some more bodies to his kill count. A Leaf Blade instantly one-shots Glacia's lead Celio and her backup Dear Lord, what is she feeding that beefcake? That's some insane bulk for an NFE. But fortunately, since Glalie just sets up Hail, this does very little other than wasting one of her precious full restores and accruing a tiny amount of chip. Still, given how we didn't even one-shot the baby, we're not winning a matchup against her big sis. So it's time for Sceptile to acquiesce the floor in favor of Glalie, who can do minor damage with Crunch, and bait Surfs that grant a safer switch to Lantern. She manages to somehow outspeed Walrein and fire off a massive Thunderbolt that just barely misses out on the KO. But since all Walrein can do is retaliate with a paralysis-free body slam and eat a useless citrus berry, one more Thunderbolt takes the KO and leaves Glacia with her 2 Glalies, both of whom are not particularly threatening. It's actually Exploud who comes in and disposes of them both, marginally redeeming his mediocre performance against Drake to win us the battle against Glacia. And credit where credit is due, Exploud doubles back to pop off against Phoebe's ghost types in the 3rd battle of the Elite Four as well. 2 Shadow Balls take out her lead Dusclops. In order to avoid massive PP loss against her grudge-holding Banette, I resort to Earthquakes, and Sableye only takes neutral damage from Shadow Ball, so she too falls to 2 Earthquakes. But then for the 2nd Banette, it's back to Shadow Balls, as Exploud need only tank a single Thunderbolt before getting his 4th kill of the fight. Phoebe's last dupe is bulky enough to tank 2 Shadow Balls after eating her held Citrus Berry, and with my sudden suddenly not so useless Exploud now sitting in range of a damage roll from Earthquake, I decide to switch to Glacia, who's free to take the KO with 2 super effective nibbles. That's Phoebe defeated, meaning that all that's left is Sidney, but I mean, come on, it's Sidney. He's almost always the easiest member of the Elite Four. There's no way I mess this up. Sidney leads with Mightyena, and by using a White Herb, Sceptile is free to shrug off his Intimidate and retaliate with a super effective Brick Break, which doesn't kill, but that's fine. Probably. Sand Attack is annoying, but I got faith in my boy Sceptile. He hits these no problem. The first one brings Mightyena down into the yellow, and then the second one misses. Alright, well fine. Crobat, why don't you show them how it's done? After shrugging off a double edge, the Speedy Bat takes the KO with an Aerial Ace, bringing Shiftry in second, who then falls to another Aerial Ace. Absol's third and takes just about 50% from our hit before setting up a Swords Dance and consuming his Citrus Berry, meaning that we probably can't kill this guy on the next turn, but I mean, it's not like this dopey dog has anything to kill Crobat, so it's perfectly fine to fire off an Aerial Ace here and go completely unpunished. Looks like I kinda forgot about the old rock slide, huh? Ah well, like I said, Crobat's main job was to beat Ludicolo, and that he did. Always a shame to lose a Pokemon, but if it had to be someone, I'm glad it was Crobat. Sceptile is free to come in and take the last 3 KOs of this fight. Leaf Blade on Absol, a few Brick Breaks on Cacturne, and then one last super effective Leaf Blade on Sharpedo wins us the battle. This means that we've made it back to the Pokemon Center in Evergrande City. Our victory over the Elite Four has been reversed, and our next goal is to start losing gym badges. My time as champion already feels like a distant memory. After replacing my dead bat for an undead, little goblin guy, I fly to Sootopolis City, where the fight against the 8th gym leader one awaits. Okay, turns out you gotta hit all the storyline flags in reverse order before you can challenge each gym leader, meaning that I need to make my way through Victory Road and fight Wally, who is unsurprisingly a total pushover, even after I prematurely dropped my Pokemon down all the way to the new level cap of 46 in preparation for fighting Juan. Level caps are a little wonky in this game since everything before the gym leader will actually be at a higher level than the gym leaders themselves, so as a result, the current level cap is really the level that I need to be at once I start the fight with the next gym leader. Make sense? No? Well, whatever. After pounding Wally like a British person talking about their national currency, it's back to the Sootopolis gym to lose our 8th gym badge. And this is fairly easy, given that Sceptile slices through his team like a bunch of perfectly... Wait, I already used that reference, didn't I? Well, he does it like a full-on rainstorm. I know that doesn't really make sense, but I gotta appease the Swifties. Anyways, Sceptile has Dragon Claw to deal with Kingdra, so this is quite literally a one-mon sweep. But after all the carnage, we need to deal with the consequences of losing the Rain Badge. Because with a single step, I'm stopped in my tracks, and it's revealed that after each gym battle, all the obtainable Pokemon and items from that split disappear, including TMs that I've already taught my Pokemon. Since the TM for Dragon Claw is behind a waterfall in Meteor Falls, I can't get it until after collecting the 8th gym badge, and so now that I no longer have that gym badge, Sceptile loses access to the move, being forced to learn another move in its place. Oh, similarly, Pokemon will also lose their level up moves as they fall below the level at which those moves are learned. Anyways, the aftermath of my lost badge extends to the box, where my mighty Salamence has mysteriously vanished. From here, though, I need to make my way backwards through the climax of Pokemon Emerald storyline. This requires a trip to the top of Sky Pillar, but whatever flag that changes the layout of Sky Pillar to not have these mock bike puzzles until after the story events was evidently left unchanged, resulting in the most excruciating 10 minutes of my life. Why are we playing goofy music? This isn't funny. This might be the hardest thing I've ever done. But after eventually getting to the top and tattling on Rayquaza, we continue backwards through our first meeting with Wallace, an unremarkable fight against Archie, losing the Dive HM by talking to Steven, and then obliterating Maxie at the Moss Deep Space Center. With that, we're free to challenge Tate and Liza, though as soon as these telepathic twins take away our gym badge, I'll need to say goodbye to Lantern, who is only encounterable by diving underwater. That's a good thing to keep in mind if things go awry, but for now, I lead with Starmie Starmie and Sceptile to immediately nuke Claydol with a double-up combo of Surf followed by Leaf Blade. As Solrock takes the field, Xatu sets up a Calm Mind, which is fine for now. He'll be targeting Sceptile, so I switch to Sableye as Starmie fires off another powerful Surf, doing fantastic damage to Solrock and bringing Xatu down below 50%. Instead of Psychic, Xatu opts for a Confuse Ray on Sableye, which is reversed by our held Person Berry. Solrock then sets up a Sunny Day, so now things are a little tricky given that they know Solar Beam and our Surf is only doing half damage, which is not nearly enough for the KO after Solrock's Citrus Berry activates. So I opt for a Fake Out from Sableye, which lets Starmie hit another Surf that does indeed miss out on the KO. A Resisted Psychic does minor damage to Starmie, and then on the following turn, Tate heals his Solrock, letting Starmie KO Xatu with a Thunderbolt that brings in Lunatone. Sableye then rips a massive Shadow Ball, though it's again not enough for the KO. But with that, we've got these suckers pinned. I switch Starmie into Sceptile, anticipating the Solar Beam. My heart skips a beat when Solrock goes for Flamethrower, but it goes into Sableye instead, who eats the hit just fine. Lunatone sets up a Light Screen, and then Sableye takes his first KO with a second Shadow Ball. Good job, little goblin guy. Leaf Blade from Sceptile does less than 50% through Light Screen, but since Lunatone simply goes for Calm Mind, that's more than enough damage for one last Shadow Ball to take the kill and win us the battle. Unfortunately, Lantern didn't get to come out for her final fight, and with a tragic backward step, she's gone forever. My hope is that whatever happens to these Pokemon, it's painless, and that maybe, just maybe, they're in a better place. But losing Lantern isn't the only change to my team, because with one more step, the screen goes black, and Starmie, the team's powerhouse, devolves before my very eyes into their base form Staryu. It makes sense, considering that the Water Stone isn't accessible until after being able to dive underwater, but I can't deny that I was surprised, and seeing my Starmie lose their power, their speed, and their bulk, becoming a weakened version of what they once were, it's sad. And for the first time, it makes me wrestle with how demented this challenge is. As we continue backwards through time, I'll have no choice but to watch my Pokemon devolve and disappear one by one. And no matter how well I play, no matter what choices I make, it'll be impossible to stop. My choice to replace Lantern is Ninetales, who will hopefully help against Winona's Skarmory before immediately disappearing into the void. Before that is a ton of Team Aqua and Magma stuff, and at one point I find myself in Slateport City to watch Team Aqua depart for the deep sea floor. A mission that in my timeline, I think I've already thwarted. I mean, I barely remember it, but I definitely faced off against Archie, right? As we forge further backwards in time, my memories become weaker and weaker, and the events of my past begin to feel more and more like daydreams of a future yet lived. While I'm in Slateport City, I do something I should have done at the start of the playthrough. I visit the Name Raider and give my squad some nicknames. Not the most creative naming theme for an Emerald Backwards challenge, but what are you gonna do? As we arrive in Fortree City, I come to the realization that the new level cap forces the de-evolutions of Eelalg into Snorunt, Elitpex into Grovyle, and Dualpex into Loudred, meaning that what I once thought was a great team to face off against Winona is now sorely lacking some much-needed bulk and power. But given the arbitrary rules I came up with at the start of the playthrough, I've got no choice but to dive headfirst into what is sure to be an absolute bloodbath. Winona leads with Swablu. Okay, this is not the Pokemon that will be causing a bloodbath. In fact, neither will her next 3 Pokemon. After Oirats takes care of Swablu with a few Bolt Beams, Tropius falls to a single Ice Beam, Pelipper falls to a single Thunderbolt, and then Skarmory takes a massive chunk of damage from Thunderbolt as well. With Sand Attack lowering our accuracy, I decide to switch out to Eyeballs. I know that's not really his name, but I don't care. Eyeballs baits Steel Wing, which grants a free-ish switch back to Oirats, who can then get the kill with a Thunderbolt, while being perfectly positioned to take on Winona's true problematic Pokemon, Altaria. If Ice Beam is a one-shot, we're golden, but if this fluffy bird lives and gets off a Dragon Dance, we could be in a whole lot of trouble. We come up just short, and so Altaria does indeed get off a Dragon Dance. Even after a held Oranberry, Winona does heal, though Ice Beam is once again barely not enough for the KO, and now I've got to risk Oirat's life. I have no idea if they survive a hit, but there's not really any other options. So, I go for Ice Beam. And Oirats lives with 10 HP. Side note, I have no idea why Winona went for Aerial Ace instead of Earthquake, which has more base power even after Stab. I mean, I guess they might have overlapping damage rolls, but either way, Oirats lives. Sadly though, it's only for a few more moments, because without the Feather Badge, one step backwards causes another set of items and Pokemon to disappear into the void, including half my Wait, what? Oh, well, I guess you don't actually need the Feather Badge to continue through the game, right? Like, theoretically, you could just skip the fight against Winona and still get all the way to Moss Deep City and Shoal Cave, so I guess my beloved Pokemon are spared for one more split. Now, admittedly, I was planning on using those empty slots to rebuild my team with a few better answers to Norman's normal types, but given that we still have eyeballs, we should be fine. Without Fly, it's quite the trek to get back to Petalburg City, but not one that's particularly challenging. And the same could be said about the battle against my father. Turns out that his posse of woodland creatures don't take kindly to getting burned alive by a few flamethrowers from Selatinin, whose name sounds like one of those drugs that are advertised on television at all hours of the day. Ask your doctor? No, late-stage capitalism, I don't think I'll be armchair quarterbacking my doctor based on an ad that ran during young Sheldon. Thanks, though. Selatinin burns through Norman's first 3 Pokemon, leaving just his Slacking, who then gets toxicated by eyeballs and slowly but surely falls a few turns later. With Norman defeated, though, we're down to just 4 gym badges, and after losing the Surf HM to Wally's father, one last step causes the great purge that I was expecting in Four Tree City. In a flash, Eolog, Oirats, and Selatinin are gone forever, leaving me with just Elitpex, Dualpex, and Eyeballs. Suddenly, we've but a fraction of the power we once had, and all but 2 of my original 6 Pokemon have been lost to the backward sands of time. Were we ever champions? Did our victory over the Elite Four even happen? Elitpex was there, as was Dualpex, that much I know, but who are the others? I try to shake off these feelings of amnesia and dread, for in this sad farewell is the opportunity to bring 3 new Pokemon onto the team. Yuramuza the Azumarill, Tupermac the Numel, and Moolurb the Breloom, all 3 of which will be vital for the next 2 gym leaders. In Lava Ridge Town is Flannery, whose first 3 fire types all fall to Bubble Beams from Arcanejo. Torkoal is much stronger, so doesn't even take 50% from a Bubble Beam before setting up a Sunny Day to lower the damage of our water type moves. Not wanting to trigger a heal, I opt for Water Gun for just a bit of damage, as Flannery goes for the classic Attract strategy. So if she wants to tempt the RNG gods, I too decide to get a little frisky and wager Yuramuza's life on some good luck. As he goes for his first rollout, he connects, but without huge power, the first hit does basically nothing. Torkoal's Body Slam does a little more to us and triggers a paralysis, though a held Cherry Berry means that we're still pretty healthy as Flannery heals. Until Yuramuza gets immobilized by Love, we're locked into rollout, and now our second 60 base power hit connects for another bit of chip. Since we're faster, we immediately get another swing at bat, and again, Yuramuza breaks through Torkoal's charms to fire off a now 120 base power rollout for what is starting to be pretty wild damage. If our luck streak continues and Yuramuza manages to break through for a 4th time in a row, Torkoal is just dead. So as the sunlight fades, I hold my breath. Are you kidding me? We missed? Come on! Ugh. Okay, well, with Yuramuza also getting paralyzed again, he's done here. I switch out to Tupermac on yet another Body Slam that, of course, also paralyzes, though again we have a Cherry Berry. This lets me gamble with Magnitude, but Tupermac pulls a 6, which is just not enough to take out the bulky Tortoise. With Sunny Day back up and Flannery healing for a second time, we might be in a bit of trouble, though Tupermac immediately makes up for her weak Magnitude 6 by pulling an 8 that gets a critical hit. It's almost enough to take out Torkoal in one shot, but if that wasn't enough, Tupermac turns around and whips out a Magnitude 10, which is obviously more than enough to KO and win us the battle. Our little lumpy cow is gonna need to maintain that BDE when we take on Wattson, though first, we gotta ride to the top of Mount Chimney to face off against Maxie. And, okay, this fight isn't particularly noteworthy, I just wanted to show the footage of riding the cable car backwards because it's hilarious. But anyways, pretty soon we're in Mauville City, facing off against Wattson. Still having access to Tupermac makes this fight much easier given his immunity to electric-type moves, rendering Wattson's lead Voltorb, and he immediately blows up. Well, that's unideal, but without the crit, Tupermac at least survives, and though her HP is low, it's still enough to bury Electrike with a magnitude 7 after the little pup just goes for a howl. Magneton is third, and their best bet is Sonic Boom, but since it's not enough to KO, Tupermac is free to fire off a flamethrower that leaves them with a sliver. Wattson heals, so I go for a magnitude, hoping to get the high roll, though that proves to be a misplay since the super potion isn't enough to bring Magneton back to full HP. Another flamethrow would have been enough to KO, but a magnitude 5 simply isn't, and that mistake on my part costs Tupermac her life. With Manectric still waiting, I can't afford to take damage on my other Pokemon on the Switch. So, with a Sonic Boom, Tupermac the Conqueror meets her match. RIP buddy, thanks for the help. I bring in a Litpex, and since my beautiful boy still has access to Dig, we can use that to revenge kill Magneton. A Litpex also manages to outspeed Manectric as he comes out, so we get off another Dig before getting nailed by a Thunder Wave that, say it with me kids, gets healed by a held Cherry Berry. Right. Unfortunately, a second Dig isn't enough to get the KO, so Manectric's second Thunder Wave connects, and that one sticks. With his held Citrus Berry, he's out of KO range, so on the following turn, we just trade quick attacks. Wattson's crits, and ours does not. A second quick attack comes out as I attempt to Dig. I gotta dodge 2 full paras here to win the game, and though we do dodge the first one, we do not dodge the second. So time for a switch to Eyeballs on a quick attack. But from there, we eat a hearty Shockwave to get off a Leer, and then switch to Moolurb the Breloom. She shrugs off one last Shockwave before ripping a priority Mach Punch, which with Eyeballs Leer is enough to clinch the victory over Wattson. Losing the Dynamo badge triggers yet another purge, but all 5 of my current Pokemon survive. After blowing up Wally's Ralts, I decide to go to the box and get a 6th teammate for the first time all playthrough, and as you can see, my options are pretty limited. I decide to grab Alakazam since technically he should be able to stay fully evolved even with the low level cap of 19, but I guess there's a built-in evolution level for trade evos. Regardless, we're well into the endgame now, and after easy fights against our rival May and the Aqua Grunts in Slateport City, we're off to Dewford Town. Once I deliver Mr. Stone's letter to Steven, I can face off against Brawly, who is of course completely walled by eyeballs. So it's just a matter of clicking Astonish and Nightshade until the battle is won and we're down to our last gym badge. All 6 of my teammates are still alive, though Duolpix and Moolurb are down to their baby forms. And after meeting with Mr. Stone and stopping the Aqua Grunt in Rusturf Tunnel, I bring my team down to the final level cap of 15. This causes a Litpex to devolve into Trico, meaning that the end of our journey is nigh. Just a few more fights and it'll all be over. The first of these fights is the battle against Roxanne, which is so easy that I won't waste time showing it to you. I mean, I definitely have the footage, it's not like I'd lose footage for the second playthrough in a row. I just respect all your time too much to show you something as mundane as me clicking Bullet Seed with Moolurb over and over again, so you're welcome. As our last gym badge disappears into thin air, I do have to say goodbye to Eyeballs. It's sad, yes, but we really only recently picked him up from Granite Cave, and I haven't had much time to get attached. Plus, this will be the last time I need to say goodbye to my Pokemon. The rest of my team comes from Roxanne's split, and will be safe as we complete the final tasks needed to officially defeat Pokemon Emerald backwards. Or so I thought. Because after making my way back to Little Root Town and talking to Professor Birch, the unthinkable happens. One step back and they're all gone. The only one left is a Litpex, the sole survivor of the game's final purge. Moolurb, gone. Yiramuza, gone. Duolpix, who's been with us since the beginning, gone. A Litpex and I were officially alone. It's as if our friends never existed, as if our accomplishments never happened, and if there's no one left to remember them, does it even matter? In that moment, I had a realization, one that's obvious in retrospect but impossible to stomach. In order to fully beat this game, I'd have to lose a Litpex as well. My final friend, the only other creature that validates our journey and my existence, will soon be gone forever. And what then? I'd have nothing but my mind. And is one's mind alone strong enough to hold on to what we know is true? Or like all my friends, would my mind disappear as well? I do nothing. I feel paralyzed by fear, but yet my body moves on its own accord. I leave Little Root Town and make my way to Route 103. It's clear that I'm powerless to the relentless backwards march of time. Against May, I stare in disbelief as a Litpex, the once great and powerful Sceptile, now struggles to whittle away at a level 5 Torchic's minuscule hit points. Where was the Pokemon I knew? The one that could bring Titans down to their knees with a single Leaf Blade? Did he ever exist, or was it all a dream? Like that, I'm back in Little Root Town, and Birch is asking me to nickname my new Trico, but he already has a name. Doesn't he? I don't have time to think, because now I'm outside the lab. There's commotion on Route 201, a man being chased by a Zigzagoon. He's familiar, but I can't place his name. He begs me to get a Pokeball from his bag to help. But in my hand, there's already a Pokeball, and in it is a Pokemon. One that I do not recognize, but one that makes me smile. One that fills my heart with warmth just looking at him. I feel myself step towards the bag, but something tells me not to. Something inside me screams to stay put, to live in this moment forever, but I'm not in control. I move towards the bag and open it up. I reach in, pull out a Pokeball, and just like that, I've begun my very first battle as a Pokemon trainer. A Trico named Litpex takes the field. He's pre-damaged. How? I do not know. I've never seen this Pokemon before, but he looks to me with a knowing glance, with sadness behind his bright yellow eyes. For a moment, I think I remember something, but in a flash, the Zigzagoon is defeated, and suddenly I'm in my neighbor's house. Then I'm talking to a girl named May. Then my mother is showing me our new home, and finally I'm in my bedroom. The TV flickers with a program I've never seen, so I tune in, and it's the Name Raider show. They're talking about some trainer's Pokemon named Litpex. I chuckle to myself. It's backwards for Sceptile. Someday I'd like to have a Sceptile. Someday I'd like to be a Pokemon trainer, to travel, to meet friends of all shapes and sizes, to experience all there is in this beautiful world. Yeah, someday I'll have a Sceptile. I'll name him a Litpex, and the two of us will have the adventure of a lifetime. For now, though, my program is over, so I go downstairs. My mother seems hysterical at the sight of seeing my dad on TV. I'd like to stay with her here, but I can't. I'm wanted outside. Something's calling me, a whisper I cannot ignore. In the bright of day, a truck awaits. So with 3 more steps, I enter the darkness, and then nothing.